Today, I want to talk about the uncomfortable truths that go along with being an adoptee. Basically, I've just I've had enough of it myself. I've had enough of the bullshit. I'm an adoptee, and the reality of the situation is there is tons of us, tons and tons and tons, and there's a whole hell of a lot of us that really just think it's horrible. Um, we are trained at a very young age not to really talk about why we feel it's horrible because then we're ungrateful little bastards. I've heard it time and time again. The reality of the situation is the problem I had before talking about it was because you're putting the birth mothers and you're putting the adoptive parents in a place that's uncomfortable for them. Now, what I mean is, um, well, here it is. I mean, it's very, very simple. The birth mother is doing a selfless act. That's what we're told. Very brave of her to give up her child to have a better life. Um, that's not true. That's not true at all, actually. Um, and then you've got the other side of the coin where it's the adoptive parents. They're all these selfless, great people. And that's not true either. The reality of most of the situations is that you have these people that can't have a child, and they want one. That's it. It's supply and demand. I mean, there is, of course, on the fringe, all kinds of situations that I'm sure are touching, and I'm sure you've seen tons about from other adoptees that were saved or some miraculous situation that's a real feel good story. Fantastic. That's great. But I don't think that's the majority, and at least not for me, and not for a ton of other people I know. So, why are these things false? Well, I guess the problem comes down to is you have the adoption triad. You have the adoptee, the birth parents, and you have the adoptive parents. The only person who doesn't have a choice in this triad is the adoptee. No choice at all. And at the end of the day, I'm 40 years old. There wasn't anyone who ever came after the adoption process to say, hey, how's it going? How's this working out for you? Because the answer, and I'm sure they know, is not very fucking good. Um, the reality of the situation is that um, the government, who basically use propaganda to turn adoption into a positive situation and better than abortion and all this stuff um, for their own agenda. Now, I have theories on what that agenda may be, but let's just look at the statistics. Um, Now, statistics are now considered proof. If you don't believe that, look at young drivers. Young drivers pay more for insurance because it's proven statistically that they cause more accidents. Okay, there's your proof. Stats. That's it. Okay. Statistically speaking, now you can look up, I've heard anywhere from 4 times to 17 times, and depending on which situation, but the point being is the proof of the stats, and look it up yourself. I already know for myself. I've done my research myself. I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm simply here to give you my opinion and back it up with the fact that there are statistics to support what I'm saying here. Basically, what I'm going to say, adoptees, from my understanding, on average, because I've heard as high as 17, as I mentioned, are 4 times more likely to commit suicide, 4 times more likely to be institutionalized, 4 times more likely to have substance abuse problems. We're 4 times more likely to have relationship issues, and I want to say it's almost a given that a child removed from its mother at birth is going to have serious long-term fear of rejection, uh, almost a crippling fear, and that's big. It's hard. It's hard to live in a world where you fear rejection at every turn, especially in a world that's becoming colder and colder and less personal and less trusting. Um, so at the end of the day, I don't blame my adoptive parents for the things that have happened to me. There's some anger and there was some stupidity on their parts, I think, for sure. Um, I was looking at my birth papers, and it's funny that on the birth papers there's a question, and I can tell you this much on the adoption application in 1973. Um, there's not a lot of info they ask. Why do you want a kid? Oh, we tried to have one, we couldn't. How much do you make a year? Oh, $8,000 a year. Do you smoke or drink? No, they don't ask that. They don't ask anything, really. It's very cut and dry. It's basically just I don't know. You have to give them more information if you want to get a cell phone. But the reality of the situation for me is that on that piece of paper it says, would you consider a child with special needs? Well, when we say that, we consider special needs to be a handicapped child, I'm guessing, or fetal alcohol syndrome, or whatever. But every adopted child is going to have special needs, just like an orphan would in an orphanage. The difference between me and an orphan, okay, is that A, my parents didn't die, my birth parents, they simply gave me away. Okay, so understand that as an adoptee, you're going to live with that fact that your parents gave you away or you were taken away from your parents. Now, the government will take away children from bad homes. Sure, yeah, that's great. Doesn't mean they're necessarily giving them to good homes. We've all heard the stories of them getting killed and molested and raped and just brutalized by these adoptive families because they don't check out the adoptive families. But if you got bad birth parents, we got to get you out of there. The funny thing is though, if your parents are junkies or drunks or whatever, um, does it what's the worry that you're going to become a junkie and a drunk? Well, at least you're going to know how to act in those situations. At least you're going to have the skills to deal with your dealer or to go rob some houses or whatever to get your fix. At the end of the day, you can be put in a picture perfect picket fence home, and I'm not saying that's me at all, but you could be, and you're still 4 times more likely to become one of just like your parents because you were adopted. So the reality of the situation is that we know that when the government social worker, let's trust a social worker to put a child into a home. Uh, I mean, I don't really know what the education process is for a social worker, but it's pretty minimal, I believe, and I don't think it requires a huge amount of smarts or doctorate or anything to say, oh yeah, we'll match this up, no problem. No, it's pretty much a roll of the dice, and it's a pretty shitty roll of the dice with the research they do because they don't do any. Adoption is big business. Adoption is for profit. We're creating adoptees because we want people with these traits. Why? Well, again, I have theories on that, and maybe I'll get into that later. But the truth of the matter here is that a young girl who gives up, and I apologize to the birth mothers here, but at the very least you should know that you're being lied to. You're not doing the right thing by giving your child away. You're going to suffer with it for the rest of life because I do know some birth mothers that have extreme psychological and mental and emotional trauma because of what they've done. They're coerced into it by the government, and the government knows how this is going to turn out for the adoptee. They know how it's going to turn out for the birth mother. And on top of all that, I mean, they really don't give the adoptive parents any sort of 411 on what's going to be going down here. Because if they don't want a special needs child, well, guess what? You're getting one. You can have a perfectly good, healthy white baby like me with blue eyes and, not a huge amount of health problems besides the ones I developed in the home where I was put. But at the end of the day, I had special needs. Now, what was I supposed to do? I guess know that I had special needs? No, I was told I was adopted. I was special. I thought I was special. Telling people I'm adopted, that's great. Well, later on it came to my attention. I was just telling people that I was a bastard, is what I was doing. And that's not special unless we're talking about special needs, because we've taken these words and we've made them mean something different than what they truly are. It's frustrating to me. But the reality of the situation, I have to quit saying the reality of the situation because it's getting a little monotonous for me too. But basically, being adopted removed me from my family tree. It cut a branch off. I was duct taped onto another family. And surprisingly, I didn't grow as a branch on the side of another tree. The duct tape eventually wears out. The branch falls to the ground. You can try going back to your family tree, and some people do. Some people do and have successful reunions or whatnot. And for myself, I found my birth family. My father had 3 more children. I felt a kinship with these people, but at the time I came to it, I didn't seek any sort of counseling before doing so. And you should get counseling before you find your birth family. It's a very traumatic experience. It's psychologically damaging. But the government, having all the statistical information on these things, allows us to do whatever the hell we want and doesn't fill us in. It's on our own onus to turn around and find our own therapy, to find our own answers, and to try and make our way in the world that we're totally disconnected from. And it's funny. I've had friends that have been adopted, and some of them have different opinions than me. Depending on where they are, some of them never look for their birth families. Some do and don't find them. Some do meet their birth families and have a different scenario. There's lots of different scenarios, but at the end of the day, we tend to have some similar characteristics, some similar traits, and we have a lot of the same problems popping up in our lives that are simply due to the fact of taking us from our mothers when we're born. You would not take away baby kittens from their mother as soon as they're born. You would let them be weaned. I don't care how much of a redneck hillbilly you may be, or how ignorant or unintelligent you may be. You wouldn't do it. And why? Why wouldn't you take away baby kittens from a mom? Because it's cruel. That's right, it's cruel to do it to kittens. But somehow, it's okay to do it to people. And it's okay to convince people, even though you have the statistical information that tells us the proof that you are not giving this child a better life. It doesn't matter if you put it in a rich family. It doesn't matter where you put that child. You're not giving the child a better life. You're giving it a 4 times more likely chance to commit suicide, be in a jail, be in a mental institution, be in all these places. And I'll tell you, I've been in a jail. I probably should have been in a mental institution. I have been addicted to every substance known to man, just about. There's been times when the doctor said, "Oh well, we'll have to see what kind of brain damage you have." I don't have any. If I do, then I was a lot smarter as a child, which is probably quite likely because of all this bullshit that I've been dealing with, the bureaucracy, all this crap. And I have a ton of videos to make because there's a ton of shit going on that's not right. And I'm sick and tired of it. I'm waking up in a world. I've sobered up. That's part of the problem that the government's going to have with me now, because I'm sobered up. Because I tried to drink myself down to a point of ignorance is bliss. And, at a certain point, the alcohol just wasn't working. and it was causing more problems than it solved. Um, there is no medication that's going to solve the problem of being adopted or fix the open wound that lasts our entire lives. I still don't know if there's any way to heal that. There's always going to be a gaping wound in my heart because of what was done out of ignorance and lies, because the government's lying. When they tell you, the young mother, that you're doing the right thing, that you're doing the selfless, brave thing, do the selfless, brave thing, you're getting lied to, and you're going to get fucked because you're going to hurt for the rest of your life because of your choice. And I did end up going to a adoption support group once. This was early on. I was quite young, and it was a bunch of birth mothers, and it was put on by an adoption agency. And I was given a nice letter after, sent a nice letter after asking that I never return. I don't know if there's a couple little kids out there that maybe stayed with their birth families because of me, but I hope so. And you little guys, you're welcome if that was the case. Because yeah, the birth mothers don't want you to hear what I have to say. And it looks like my voice is out of sync here on this video, so I'm going to cut her short, but I'll make some more. I like to go from the hip, so I don't have any script or anything like that, and there's been things running around my head that I want to get out into the world. And you know what, you might think I'm retarded, or you might have some real negative things to say, but at the end of the day, there's some more people out there that feel the same way I do, and they might think they're all by themselves right now, like I did for most of my life, and that there's something wrong with me. And you know what, I don't think there's anything wrong with me, but something wrong was done to me. And for that, I'm going to have obstacles and difficulties my entire life because of it. So adoption is not the right thing. And yeah, you can say to yourself, would you have rather been aborted? The answer is yes. Yes, I would have. I am a spiritual person, and I believe killing yourself is wrong. But I certainly have been, close to changing that philosophy on numerous occasions because of how painful life can be for an adoptee. So I hope and pray that, what I have to say will get to the right people, and the people who want to remain ignorant of what we go through. And I don't speak for every single adoptee, and I maybe don't even speak for a majority of adoptees, but we do all have some underlying issues, and some may be in denial about it, which is probable or possibly likely, but we need to know that we're not alone, and it's my responsibility to reach out with what I have to say and share that, because there wasn't the internet when I was going through this, and it was a lonely, scary place to be. And if you're lonely and scary, lonely and scared, I don't know what to tell you, but you're not alone. Thanks.